Hello and welcome to Co-Ed for Kid Goes Live. My name is Kelly Goodell and I'm the Regional Coordinator for Prevention Services at the Co-Ed Early Care and Education Division. Co-Ed is the child care and resource agency for 31 counties in Eastern Ohio. This broadcast is brought to you today in partnership with the Ohio Children's Trust Fund and the Eastern Ohio Prevention Council, both who are seeking to provide child abuse and neglect prevention services in Belmont, Carroll, Coshocton, Guernsey, Harrison, Jefferson, Monroe, Muskegum, Noble, and Tuscarawas counties. Again, thank you for joining us today, and we are live and on site in New Philadelphia. Today my guest is Kristen Betts. She is a contractor here at Co-Ed and one of our specialists in early childhood development. So welcome, Kristen, and thank you for joining me. Today we're going to talk about what parents can do to, one, identify if their child is ready for preschool, and things that parenting tips that they can do to help prepare them. And so it's making the decision and then getting them ready once that decision is made. So we're going to jump right into what is preschool, what ages are we talking about, and just we can talk about some of the things that we at home can do for our kiddos, getting them ready.
Well, preschool usually ranges from about the ages of 3 to 5, depending on where your child's birthday falls and how it kind of falls in there. Most child care centers run a 3 to 4 classroom and then the 4 to 5. So even at your preschools, you'll have that same option usually. So it's kind of nice to get them into that 3-year-old classroom first, the 3 to 4, because they are young still and they're coming from a toddler classroom. And oftentimes, they don't just all jump from a toddler to a preschooler like that. And I think that sometimes what we think, ooh, we're headed towards preschool, we should be able to sit longer. The 3 to 4-year-olds, not so much. As you jump into the 4 to 5s, you'll start to see that a little bit more. So I think that gives them 2 good years of a preschool based. And then some parents even decide if their child's birthday, depending on how it falls, might keep them in for an extra year of preschool, just depending on their birthday. And I think that's going to fall a lot on where they're at, on maturity-wise. Are they able to sit down and learn? Do they want to do the projects that the teacher's offering? So there's a bunch of different things to look at, but your main range for preschool is going to be that 3 to 5.
So if you're a parent whose child has been at home in your own care or under family care, or has been in a child care setting, about that 3-year-old is when you want to start looking about, is this the time? And because at that point that they may be poised and ready developmentally to kind of get a little bit more structure. And I think that what I've been hearing is that it's just going from a different type of learning environment to a little bit more structure.
It is more structure.
And then preparing not only them for preschool, but then also for kindergarten transition. So preschool is really the time where we're getting them ready, those first steps for formal learning in an educational setting. So the importance of preschool is really just to kind of lead them up. Yeah. So when a parent is considering, maybe their child is 2, 2.5, maybe 3 years old, again, depending upon their birth date, what things should parents be looking at to help them make the decision?
Well, there's a couple different things to look at. Probably your number one thing to start to look at is really the social aspect and the emotional aspect of it. That's not something we usually focus on, I think, as parents, but teachers appreciate it, and it's something we need to look at because some kids aren't emotionally ready to go.
And what would be an example of emotional readiness?
A lot of that is, can your child be separated from you or whatever caregiver that they're with?
Without a consistent anxiety level.
Correct.
Children are going to have some separation anxiety the first times, but is it something that they're able to get over?
Yeah. Does it last a minute? The parent leaves, and usually the kids are okay then. It's just the thought of their parent leaving and seeing them leave upsets them a little bit. As they get older, though, they start to become a little bit more mature and more okay with the environment they're going to, the teachers that are there, so the attachment aspects there. Some kids don't ever really do well with that, and it is okay. I mean, that's just who they are. It's part of their temperament. but knowing that you can leave them and they'll be okay, and that they're willing to be social with other kids.
And so they respond to redirection.
Yes.
So it's one thing if your child is worried and upset and anxious about you leaving them, and within a time frame, if you can be redirected, like, oh, look at this puzzle, or come sing some songs over here. So if your child can be redirected emotionally, that might be a sign that they're ready for that.
Yeah.
What would some other signs be?
Some other signs are, are they ready to go to activities at a table and sit down? Not for a long period of time. I still don't recommend sitting for long periods at tables.
So 5-10 minute activities. 10, 20 minutes would be the longest type of activity?
That'd be long.
That would be long.
And it depends on the activity that they're doing. But a lot of time it's the carpet time where the kids go, and a lot of times the teachers will go over weather, they'll go over days of the week, ABCs, little things. But have them sit for a little bit just to see what attention spans we're getting, because their attention spans should be getting better at this point. Toddler attention spans aren't that great, but preschoolers should be getting better. So seeing if you can get their attention for a couple things. So in the beginning of the year, they're going to start out small with just maybe the weather, who's here today, and then move on. As the year goes by, they're going to end up adding things because their attention spans are getting better, because they're getting used to sitting still longer, paying attention.
So that's something a parent could do, is actually create that environment where okay, for the next, and moms and dads can set timers and just say, let's see how long,
let's work on this and see how it goes,
and introduce a topic, like you said, just say today is Tuesday, the sun is shining, it's spring, just those type of things that,
like, who has blue on today, and see if they realize, like, oh, it's me, I have blue on. That it's going to take time, and it's the same thing if we would do an art activity with them. We don't want to give them a huge project that's going to take long in a lot of directions yet. Start out small, work your way up, because they'll become more interested in it. And that is something parents can do, but to not get frustrated with their child. A lot of times what I think happens is we know our kids are getting ready for preschool, and we think, oh, they need to know their ABCs, they need to know their numbers, they need to be able to sit for a long period of time. So we're trying to force these kids into this, when if they look at something and they're just like, yeah, I don't know what that is, or I don't want to do this anymore, be okay with it, and then try again later.
And knowing that that's developmentally appropriate for their age.
Yeah.
So it may not be something they have the innate capacity to do right at this moment. So we talked about, a little bit their emotional readiness and anxiety levels. We talked a little bit about just being able to engage and have a little bit of independence. What about their ability to communicate? What should parents be looking, or if they're watching their child and trying to make that decision, they don't, obviously need to be able to speak in full paragraphs about a topic. But so what type of expressive and communication skills would you say a parent would say, if you're recognizing this in your child, they're probably ready?
Most kids at this stage, they can understand directions that are given to them. So like if I say, go get your shoes so that we can go outside, they know to go get their shoes, put them on, hopefully. At this age, they should be able to put their shoes on their Velcro. So usually Velcro them up and then head outside. If they're not understanding that, we might need to wait a little bit longer, but the little directions should be able to be followed. So whether it is get your shoes or get a toy, or I need you to go brush your teeth, or, go use the bathroom, just little simple directions.
So 1-2 steps.
Yeah, nothing huge, just small. And then, like I said, by the end of the year, you're going to see huge improvements in these kids, and they'll be able to follow more, but you have to start small and not expect so much. I do think it's in our brains that, oh, preschool, like all of a sudden our kid is this age now, they should know all this stuff. It takes time to learn all that.
Preschool is actually the setting where they're really learning a lot of these things.
Well, they're taking everything that they learned in their infant and toddler rooms, or if they were at home. Those years are important because they've gained so much of those little things that they needed. So the language skills to be able to speak or to be able to move. Now we're in preschool where we're going to start applying more, and then we're learning more. So developmentally, we've reached a lot of milestones. Now it's time to learn. So you're kind of switching the tables on them a little bit, and that takes a lot of patience with parents, with kids, with teachers, because not all kids are ready to learn yet or don't want to. They're like, nope, I want to go play with my truck. Like, I don't want to hear about the ABCs or the numbers yet. It takes time for some kids, and we have to be okay with that and realize that not everyone's going to be quite as ready as another child. Just follow their cues, and they'll get there, guaranteed. But
so in communication, is just that they're able to express their needs. I'm thirsty.
Yes. Yes. I need to use the bathroom.
I need, yes, if they're in that potty training. And potty training, which we talk about, isn't always a requirement for preschool, especially for the 3-year-olds. It may be for a little bit of the 4 and 5s, but that might be an emerging skill.
Yes, and that'll depend on the child, once again, with their development and their learning. Some kids that have never been in a child care setting and aren't around other children might be a little behind in the potty training because they're not around other kids that are doing it, so
that they
it's
can
not
role
familiar.
model.
Yeah. So as they're getting into, especially the 3 to 4 year classroom, that's usually when they're learning. A lot of these children may potty train great during the day but still struggle at night. I know I've talked to a couple parents about that as well, that the nighttime is a struggle. And I actually just talked to one a couple of days ago, and I said, you know, when we're still putting pull-ups on them at night, it does send that wrong message that if you do go to the bathroom, like, it's okay because you have your pull-up on, don't worry about it. So we're not setting that sign to wake up, go to the bathroom type of deal. So those are just things that are a learned process, and it's going to take time.
And it's reinforced. And it's reinforced in the preschool setting. So if it's not 100% there,
it'll get there.
Okay. So we were talking about expressive and a little bit of independence and able to and the anxiety, concentration, and we've talked a little bit about a small task or a small activity. So what are some of the things that if you're a parent looking at your child, attention span, concentration, some things that they could look for.
Tricky. When you read a book to them, they should be able to sit down and listen to a short book. You know, I wouldn't make it anything really long because, once again, their attention spans aren't there. But being able to sit through a book, they should be able to. Doing a puzzle, they should be able to put like the knob puzzles together with you. Coloring, they should be able to color. Start cutting. They're going to start using scissors. So start to cut. Doing things that are simple and basic, but keeps them entertained and interested. So if their child really isn't into coloring, then that's not something that you need to really sit down and do with them right at that moment. Focus on the things that they're interested in, because eventually the coloring may come, may never come. Some people just don't like to color. So just keeping those little things in mind, because it's important that they're not stressed out when they're learning. Because if they're stressed in doing something, that puts that negative effect on the brain, and they don't like it. They don't want to do it anymore.
And it doesn't encourage.
It doesn't encourage anything. Success. No.
You brought up another good point in talking about concentration. Fine motor skills. What kind of fine motor skills should, if a parent's considering, enrolling their child in preschool, fine motor skills? What would be some examples of what they could be looking for? They don't have to be fully developed, but what are they looking for?
And these are things to do with your hands. A lot of preschoolers especially are really into Legos. So building Legos, putting them together, pulling them apart. And granted, some Legos don't come apart easily because I can't even get them. As my preschooler will bring me a lot of Legos, like, Mom, I can't get this. But it's that encouragement of, I want you to try and, pull at the corner, do this. Just trying to give them short directions to see if they can understand it and get there themselves. A lot of teachers will have boards where there's zippers on there. So zipping your jacket, for instance, that's a very good task for a preschooler. The teachers really appreciate when we can all get our jackets on, zip them up, and go outside. So you can make yourself a board that has Velcro on it, has zippers on it, shoestrings. I mean, they're probably not going to tie them, but we could even teach them how to just tie a knot. Not how to tie their shoe necessarily, but just a knot. Using their hands in different ways and being able to control them. It's even the use of scissors. That's a fine motor skill, to be able to open and shut with your hands.
So at that point, also like spoons,
yes,
forks, self-feeding, that type of thing. Pencils and crayons, just getting that grasp.
Yes, not holding like this anymore. We shouldn't be fisting a crayon and coloring. We should be holding it appropriately at this point. And most kids do. You eventually just change and don't even realize that you were holding like this and now you're holding like the regular way. So that transitions and that helps them be able to start the writing skills. With that fine motor, they'll start to draw circles and squares and, their letters.
And those are all the things that they'll continue to grow and develop as they go through. But if you're in that spot where you're making those initial decisions about what should be done and how to decide if your child's ready.
Correct.
I think another topic I'd like to talk about is stamina and naps. And when you're looking at your 2.5, 3-year-old to make the determination, what does their day look like? Are they still in morning naps and longer morning naps and long afternoon naps? And because that may not sit well with the curriculum and the structure of the program. And then what would you recommend the parents, if they're noticing that, if that's something their child's still doing, what can they do to kind of...
I think with that, the parent is really going to have to look at the preschool itself and see what they offer. So do they offer full-day preschool? Is it half-day preschools? Is it every 5 days? Is it every 3 days? I mean, there's so many options out there. And to see what your child's ready for and what they can handle. I know my son goes 3 days a week for 3 hours a day. And that honestly is enough for him now. I think now that we're towards the end of the year, he could go every day, all day. I really do feel like we're ready for that. But in the beginning of the year, I knew he wouldn't be able to do it. And the year before that, we were still taking naps. We were in the 3 to 4 classroom, and he was still napping, and I picked him up before nap time, got him home, and got his nap. Now, a lot of preschools that are full day will have the option of laying down and taking a nap. So that's something I think the parent will need to talk to the preschool about. How long is nap time? When do they take it? So seeing if it meets that schedule. And if
it's their child's natural schedule. So I guess what I'm hearing you say is, is they look into the different preschool environments that are available. Maybe make as many adaptations to your child's existing schedule. But if not, and this is a quality preschool that you're interested in your child going to, there might need to be some steps about adjusting some nap times or maybe one longer nap instead of 2 shorter naps in order to do that. So I think that's something to think about because
nap times are slowly going away at this point.
Nap time, but it can also be very important as part of their development and where they're at physically. They're just requiring that additional downtime. So I think that's something that we want to make sure that you're looking at as a parent, and not only just looking at your child readiness, but also the types of preschools that you would be interested in them in attending.
And I think for parents, the biggest thing that they need to understand is that they can go to any of these preschools and check them out and see, does it work for my family? Is it going to work for my child? How's the schedule go? Do they take the kids outside? Do they offer like a gym class or like a gross motor time? Those are important things to really check out and make sure, is this preschool going to be the right fit? Because a lot of times we just know our kids going to preschool, and so we're just like, oh, well, there's one in town. Like, we'll just go to that one. Well, are there 5 or 6 in town? Because if there are, let's check 5 or 6 of those out and see which one's going to fit better. Because you want a good fit, because you want your child to be comfortable. Because, like we said, emotionally, kids may struggle leaving mom and dad. And especially if it's their first time ever being in care, it's going to be a little bit of a struggle.
And easing into it, as you said, maybe if your child's not maybe meeting some of these minimums, but you know that's something that they're working on, and it's emerging skills. So perhaps the enrollment, minimum enrollment first, and then easing into
then jump up
a more extensive environment.
I think so too.
Okay. Well, Kristen, I think we've talked about a lot of very different things, and if there are any parents or caretakers out there who are interested in learning more about identifying the skills and emerging skills that your potential preschooler may be shown, please feel free to log on to our Facebook and send us some comments. Kristen and I are always available to answer questions, and we hope that you'll contact us about that. If there are any preschool teachers out there who would like to add to our discussion about what they'd like to see or other tips that they could give to parents, about preparing their child for preschool, we'd love to hear back from you as well. So just in recap, I think that we talked about, the gross motor skills, fine motor skills, social and emotional readiness, ability to be redirected, ability to communicate, all of those different types of things. And those are all very emerging skills. They don't need to be perfect when you're thinking about it, because preschool is meant to take those skills to the next level. Correct. So as long as they are emerging and doing that, and then of course always talk with your chosen preschool to make sure that it's a good fit. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Kristen. And again, anyone out there, please feel free to give us a call and some feedback in our comment section, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.